In today's episode of Fight News, we have massive updates from big potential fights like Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, official announcements like headliners of UFC 312, ranking updates after UFC 310, and more. To keep you updated with the fight world, let's start from the updated rankings after UFC 310. Alexandre Pantoja moves up 2 spots in the latest official pound-for-pound rankings following his UFC 310 victory over Kai Asakura. Pantoja now finds himself at number 9, tied with former UFC welterweight champion Leon Edwards. Gilbert Burns explains the Pantoja we saw at UFC 310 could beat anyone, including the flyweight GOAT Demetrius Johnson, whom Pantoja called out after his win. But DJ tells Ariel Helwani that there is absolutely no chance he will come back to the UFC to fight Alexandre Pantoja. He says his legacy doesn't need Pantoja, nor does Pantoja need Demetrius Johnson in his legacy. 2 new names are added to the official flyweight rankings. Kai Asakura debuts at number 14, with Joshua Van just behind at number 15. Cody Durden and Matt Schnell departs the list with the new additions. After Shavkat Rakhmonov's underwhelming performance against Ian Gary at UFC 310, the champion Bilal Muhammad believes he will dominate him in their fight, and Carlos Prates also says that his friends believe he would beat Shavkat Rakhmonov after watching his performance at UFC 310. But here comes Daniel Cormier, who revealed the reasons of Shavkat's low performance via his YouTube channel and said that Shavkat came into the bout against Gary with a torn MCL. Still, he managed to get a win and got a spot up in the official welterweight rankings. The man he beat in the night's co-main event, Ian Machado Gary, stays firm at number 7. Fans were demanding Gary vs Edwards for UFC London main event, but he ruled out this potential fight in the Ariel Helwani show. Gary says that although he recently bought a house in London and plans to fight 3 times next year, still he will not fight there in London or anywhere in Europe until he gets a fight in Dublin, Ireland. With Dublin's most famous 3 arena having only 9,500 capacity, I do not expect the UFC to hold an event in Ireland anytime soon. Gary also talks about Kamaru Usman and says Usman will never step into the octagon with him. Usman in response blasts Gary and says who the F is this guy for him to be a late replacement for? Following his key victory at UFC 310, Movsar Evloev moves up 1 slot in the latest featherweight rankings and now sits at number 4, trailing Alexander Volkov, Max Holloway and Diego Lopez. He has called for a 2-month turnaround to fight in February at UFC 212. The man he beat, Aljamain Sterling, stays firm at number 9 and is uncertain on future after his tough loss. Dominic Reyes continues his climb back up the light heavyweight division, moving up 1 slot to number 11. The man he beat, Anthony Smith, falls 1 slot to number 14, just behind his lookalike Bogdan Guskov. The heavyweight division saw no change in the rankings after Cyril Gane's victory over Alexander Volkov at UFC 310. Shavkat's injury is yet to be confirmed, but Gane has shared X-ray images of his 3 broken toes, confirming his foot injury suffered in the first round of the fight. Michael Chiesa, who fought at UFC 310 early prelims, was also present at the Ariel Helwani show, where he reiterated his desire to break or tie Damian Maia's 9 rear naked choke finishes record. He said he would be good to go to fight in his hometown at UFC Seattle, which is officially confirmed to take place at Climate Pledge Arena on February 22nd. And last from UFC 310, Brian Battle tells Ariel Helwani that he weighed only 194 pounds on Saturday night against Randy Brown after missing 4 pounds over the welterweight limit at UFC 310 weigh-ins. Battle says he would not have taken the fight if he had made weight and his opponent would have missed. Battle says that he now wants to fight Carlos Prates next in the enemy's territory, Brazil. Carlos Prates also had an interview with Submission Radio where he said that he fully intends to fight Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 312 in Australia. Prates says he is almost back to full training but needs a bit longer until he can kick again. UFC 312 headliners are announced, by the way. Dricus du Plessis will defend his middleweight title against Sean Strickland in the main event of UFC 312 in Australia and opens as a small favorite. DDP clarifies why he is fighting Sean Strickland next and not Khamzat Chimaev, and then warns Sean Strickland that this time it won't be called a robbery but an attempted murder. Khamzat Chimaev, by the way, will be in attendance for the UFC 312 middleweight title rematch, and most probably we will be able to see his octagon face-off with the winner. Khamzat casually starts bullying Strickland after the announcement, who replied furiously, The co-main event of UFC 312 on February 8th will feature Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez for the women's strawweight title. Justin Tafa versus Talison Teixeira is also added on the card. Marcin Tybura will fight Mick Parkin, and Jan Blachowicz will take on Carlos Ulberg at UFC London on March 22nd. Now something about UFC 311. It is reported that Khabib was at the UFC 311 press conference in disguise, wearing a mask and glasses, so quietly supporting his brothers without taking any attention away from them. After Bilal's refusal to fight Islam Makhachev because of their friendship, Shavkat Rakhmonov keeps Islam's double champ dream alive and says he won't refuse Islam Makhachev fight if he becomes the champion. Next in line for Islam, Charles Oliveira says via TNT Sports that he will attend UFC 311 and is willing to be the backup fighter for the main event if the UFC asks him. Oliveira had warned Ilia Topuria about a lightweight move last month after his UFC 309 win, and guess what? Ilia Topuria called him to be his next opponent in the lightweight division. Topuria has said in an interview that he is done with the featherweight and plans to retire in the next 3 years. He wants to move up to the lightweight division and take on number 1 contender Charles Oliveira in April or May, because the winner of Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan may not be ready that soon after fighting in January. Topuria is very confident in his boxing skills and prefers fighting in UFC's Miami card in April so he can invite Lionel Messi to the show. Conor McGregor reacts to Ilia Topuria's retirement plan, and Michael Chandler couldn't stop himself entering into the conversation after he saw Conor is giving more attention to Topuria rather than him. Don't you dare to laugh, but Michael Chandler has clarified the logic behind claiming he would beat Charles Oliveira 9 out of 10 times. Now let's talk about some updates from the fights we know are gonna happen but are yet to be announced. Manon Fiorot sends a fiery message to Valentina Shevchenko and asks her to either fight or just retire. Dana White comments on the situation and says that Manon Fiorot will be fighting for the flyweight title, but he is not sure when. Alex Pereira finally answers the question of who could be his next opponent. He says it could be Ankalaev, but he wants to make his task of getting a title shot more difficult because of the lies he told. Moreover, Pereira picks John Jones to win in a potential fight against Tom Aspinall. Now watch Alex Pereira flipping around a trampoline park in New Jersey and then do whatever you want.